In this week's edition of Pass the FE Exam, I'm going to be talking to someone that recently took and passed the FE exam. He is Victor Romo, an engineer in training from California. Victor is going to share with you how he prepared for the exam through self-study, what his study schedule looked like. He's literally going to show it to you. And he's going to help you answer this important question. When exactly should I take the FE exam? Now, before I bring on Victor, let me remind you that the FE exam, or Fundamentals of Engineering, is the first step to getting your professional engineering license. And through the videos on this channel, including this one, you will learn not only how to prepare for the exam, but how to ensure that you pass the FE exam. So please don't forget to subscribe to my channel here, as my weekly videos will help you pass the FE exam. And if you leave questions in the comments below, I will answer those questions on future videos. Victor, welcome to Pass the FE exam. Thanks so much for giving us a few minutes. I know it's final time for you.
Yeah, everything's getting pretty crazy. Thanks for having me, Anthony.
So, Victor, why don't you start by telling our viewers just a little bit about yourself in terms of what discipline in engineering you're studying, what your focus is?
Yeah, so I'm a senior at San Jose State in California, and I'm studying civil engineering with an emphasis in structural.
Great, that's awesome. And you obviously recently took the FE exam, which is why we're really excited to talk to you. It was just weeks ago, actually, so we know it's pretty fresh in your mind. So tell our viewers about how you prepared for the FE exam. Was it self-study, taking a course? Tell us about your approach, which obviously worked because you passed it.
Yeah, definitely. So my approach was strictly self-study. I primarily watched a lot of videos on YouTube, and I was able to find, a lot of practice problems for the FE online, on various websites. I had to do some digging, but they were there. The videos that I watched were from three YouTubers primarily. The first one, he was a professor. His name's Gregory Michaelson. His videos are really good because they're how they would be in a classroom setting. I think the second one was another gal. Her name was enGENIEer. Genius, like a play on words. Her videos were really good because they were, about like 3 to 10 minutes. So they kept you engaged. And then the last set of videos that I watched were from another guy. His name was Direct Hub. And I liked his videos a lot because, they were straight to the point and it was just calculations. And, the thing that I thought that was really good from all these videos is they show you how to navigate the reference handbook that you'll be given in the test. So that was really helpful to get that insight.
That's great, and I'm glad you mentioned them, and we'll link to them in the description of this video in case our viewers want to check those other resources out. And it's really admirable that you were able to do it on your own. I know that in order to do that when you have everything else going on, you have to really stay focused and really focus yourself on studying, which I know can be something that's very difficult. And I know from some of our conversations in the past that one of the things that helped you to do that was a very structured study schedule. So can you talk a little bit about, Victor, about your study schedule and how you approach that?
Yeah, so it kind of came down to just two things, like you said, was having a game plan and just having a lot of discipline to actually execute that. And so the FE is broken down into, various sections depending on what your discipline is. And so what I did, I got like a huge calendar and, I designated, 1 week for dynamics or statics, whatever it was. And, towards the beginning of the week, I would watch videos from those sources that I mentioned. And then later on, I would try practice problems on my own. Sometimes I would time myself. I think it's about 3 minutes per question. So I would do that. And so that worked for me really well.
Yeah, that's great. And I think it's great that you were able to do that and you were able to build some consistency into your study routine. Like, each week would just be a different topic, but you would kind of follow the same actions, watch the videos first, do some problems. And I see how that can be very helpful, especially for, an engineer. We tend to think very structured and very analytical. And I know that you even had a calendar that was really a big part of that. And maybe you could show our viewers, but I know you had, that was helpful for you in kind of charting it out. Is that right?
Yeah, actually, it's kind of written on, but let me show you guys. So it was just a big calendar like this, and I just, like I said, 1 week this, 1 week that, and I designated, time slots within the actual week itself. Between this time I'll be doing this, and kind of just keep me on track. It wasn't so much, doing the problems right. It was kind of like you said, getting, a rhythm and kind of keeping that on throughout the entire study process.
Yeah, and I think what's important about that, and I talked about this in one of the previous videos on our channel in terms of a study schedule, is committing to it and making sure that studying is just as important as other things that are going on in your life. Because I think what happens sometimes, if you have a class or you have an exam, obviously you're not going to miss it. You know what time class is and you're going to go to it. But you need to kind of give that same intensity to study time, realizing that without that time, the odds of passing that FE exam are not as good as if you had the study time. So I think that that's a really important thing that you were able to focus on that. So let's talk a little bit about materials, Victor. Are there any books that you would recommend that someone preparing for the FE exam should purchase or should acquire to help them study for the exam?
Yeah, so the only source that I actually bought that was provided by the NC website, and it's just the practice exam that they provide for you for your discipline. And then I was actually able to find a lot of practice problems and even PDF booklets of FE civil or FE discipline practice problems online. And so you don't really have to buy things so much. I think this book was about like $25, so that wasn't too expensive. But a lot of these sources you can find online because past people, they post them. You just got to get to them, I guess, before they get taken down. But they're up there.
Yeah, and I think that, so first of all, the reference handbook that you get during the exam, just so that everyone knows, is available on the NCEES website for free. You can download a copy of the PDF version, which you have to do. You need to study with that because that's what you're going to have during the exam. But the document there that Victor held up was an additional resource that you can purchase for, I guess, your focus with problems, additional problems that you can use and that you can go through, which is really important. And I just like one disclaimer that I want to throw out there. There are review courses, of course, that you can take for the FE exam. Victor didn't. He went through the self-study process. And, I don't necessarily think one way is better than the other. I think a lot of it is dependent upon the person. I think that doing what Victor did certainly requires a lot of focus. You have to be organized. You have to be able to be accountable to yourself, maybe get a study partner. Whereas a course I find could be more helpful if you need the outside accountability and the structure. So I don't want you to think that by doing this video with Victor, we're saying that you have to self-study. It's an option. It's obviously a less expensive option, but at the same time, if you're going to go that route, you have to exhibit kind of the focus and the dedication that someone like Victor did to be able to get this done. So all that being said, Victor, let's get to the actual exam day. You prepared, it's exam day, you go there. Are there any surprises or things that maybe caught you off guard during the exam?
Yeah, actually. So when I originally, was planning to sign up for the FE, that was back in June. I figured when I was online, I'd get an appointment, within a month or something. But the next available appointment was not until November. And, I couldn't figure out for the longest time, why is everything getting booked up so fast? And it made sense when I got to the exam. Because when I got there, there's a room and all the desks are 6 feet apart. They have window panes here in California, and they're really abiding by the COVID rules. So it made sense because the capacity, complies with the COVID rules. So they can't allow a lot of students to get in there. So that was one surprise. Another surprise that I had, actually taking the test was, for my discipline at least, there weren't so many, calculation problems. There was a lot of, theoretical problems that weren't necessarily hard, but I just wasn't prepared for them because I was preparing for, calculation-based problems. So those, I guess, problems without numbers kind of threw me off a little bit.
Oh, wow. So there were some qualitative questions or more than you thought there might be versus the quantitative questions that you did most of your preparation for. Okay, so those are a couple things to be aware of then. I mean, COVID or not, I think once you want to, sign up and take the FE, you should do it as soon as possible just to, get on the schedule. And, to me, that date is like an anchor for you to really, build your study schedule around and kind of build your accountability around. So that is important. And then, being prepared for the different types of problems is going to be, super important as well. So, Victor, you took the exam. How long typically does it take to get your results, and what was your experience with that?
Yeah, so on the NC website, they typically say, 10 to 14 days. But I got mine a lot sooner. I think it was about 5 days. So I was kind of nervous when I got the email a little earlier. But I think they just say that, that way they don't delay their response. But I think it's up to 14 days. So you get it pretty quick.
You must have felt really good when you got that email and read it.
Yeah, I wanted to know already.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of work, and you put in a lot of time, and especially when you do that self-study, you're putting a lot of emphasis on yourself to keep up the schedule. So that's great. So what advice would you give? All that we went through today is great, but what advice would you give an engineer, whether it's a student or a practicing engineer that's still trying to figure out, at what point they should take the FE exam? What would your recommendation to them be?
I think the actual NC website, they require you to have, a couple of years of schooling experience. And that makes sense because you have to get, a little bit deeper into your upper div courses because some of the questions on the FE are actual design questions. But I think maybe by the time, you're a junior or at the very beginning of your senior year, you should definitely take it. And I know a lot of people, they get kind of scared about taking the exam because they worry about failing it. But, it doesn't go against your record or anything, you can take it as many times as you want and it doesn't matter. So I think it makes more sense to take it sooner rather than later. And then you would just get more, just actual experience taking it if you didn't pass it the first time. But I'm sure everyone, will.
Yeah, no, that's great. And so basically what you're saying is as soon as you have everything that's required to have, meaning like your education, yeah, sign up and get the exam going. And I agree with you. I mean, listen, I understand it takes time and you're busy, you're studying, you got exams, you got courses. But like Victor said, at the end of the day, if you don't pass the first time, you know what? You got some insight, you went through the problems, you studied a little bit, you take it again the next time around and you'll be better off. But at least you've seen it and you got the process going. And everyone that I talk to is really in line with that. In fact, on the next video that we're going to publish next week, we're going to be talking to a licensed professional engineer who's been out for 10 years, looking back on a little bit different perspective than Victor on, taking the exam early and how the whole process and the license has helped them. And one thing that I'll add here too is now that you have your FE, Victor, you're going into the next stage of things, of course, getting ready for your career and then hopefully, the PE exam in a few years. One thing that I'll just advise you on, and hopefully all of our viewers can benefit from this, is once you get out there in your career, it's really important for you to track your experience. Every project you're working on, who your supervisor is, because these are the types of things that you're going to need when you go to do the application in a couple of years to sit for the PE exam. And I get a lot of engineers that contact me and say, I want to sign up for the PE exam. I'm going through the application and it's really hard because I don't remember all the stuff I worked on. and that's problematic. And that can actually cost you a lot of time because if you can't dig that up, you may lose some of that experience. So just, that's just a word of advice to all of our viewers out there. If you're able to do what Victor has done, which is awesome, self-study, get that FE as early as you can, and then you prepare for the next leg of it. So, Victor, I want to thank you for taking some time out of your, exam time and coming on for a few minutes and sharing all of the advice that you shared with us. I want to congratulate you for, being able to go through self-study and stay focused and disciplined to get that FE. And it's just such a pleasure that you came on and shared it with us. We really appreciate it.
All right, well, thanks for having me again. Appreciate it.
I hope you found my conversation with Victor helpful. In an upcoming video, I'm going to speak with a licensed professional engineer who's going to share some thoughts on his journey to licensure, what he has learned through the process, and how he's benefited from his PE license. And some of these benefits you may not have even considered. Pass the FE exam will publish videos weekly, so please be sure to click the subscribe button as you'll get expert tips and tricks every week to ensure that you pass the FE exam. And these are tips that you can't get anywhere else, and believe me, you won't want to miss a single video. And I encourage you to please ask questions in the comments that I'll read and respond to in future videos. Maybe there's a specific topic that you'd like me to cover, or a question that you need answered. Pass the FE exam will have you covered. I'll see you next week.